Hello, my name is Emily Muff, and let's get right to it. We're going to talk about Carnosinemia. So, we're presented with a husband and wife who gave birth to their first child, a son named Benji. At the first stages of his life, he experienced seizures, and they progressed as he became a toddler, which led him to become extremely mentally retarded, and at just over 2 years of age, he passed away. The parents decided to have an autopsy done, which showed nerve cell damage and grave brain degeneration. There was no diagnosis made. The parents did not suspect a genetic problem because there has been no relevant family history, and the family's primary physician assured the parents that the conditions was not likely to occur if they had another child. However, a few years later, the husband and wife decided to have another child, a daughter named Julie, and she showed the same symptoms as her late brother Benji. The parents this time took Julie to a large medical center where Julie had specialized tests completed. The results showed that she had abnormal amounts of the chemical carnosine in both her cerebrospinal fluid and urine. In unaffected patients, the body would have broken down carnosine, leaving very little to none in the body. The parents' urine was also tested, and the results showed that they had half of the normal enzymatic activity for the enzyme called carnosinase, which is responsible for breaking down carnosine. Benji and Julie were diagnosed with carnosinemia. Carnosinase is an enzyme responsible for breaking down carnosine in unaffected individuals. It is found in the brain and the blood. Carnosine is a dipeptide made up of 2 amino acids, alanine and histidine, that helps reduce damaging protein glycation, which is when sugars such as fructose and glucose bind to proteins and cause damage. And in addition to carnosine, ancernine, another dipeptide, are found in meats in affected individuals. In affected individuals, the metabolism of dipeptides ranges from abnormal to absent. When the enzymes fail to break down carnosine, affected patients have high levels of carnosine found in the urine and abnormally low levels of the enzyme activity in their blood. In addition to genetic testing, various specialized blood testing can be done to measure the activity of carnosinase or lack thereof, though a definitive diagnosis is made after there has been a complete exclusion of meat from the individual's diet, and then urine and blood samples are taken to measure the levels of amino acids. After reading this case study and doing a little background research, this one stood out to me because of how rare it is. Some may be quick to get angry at the family's primary physician for he or she told the parents that it is unlikely that their future children would suffer, when unfortunately they did. In medicine, there's a saying, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras, which essentially means Occam's razor. The most simplest answer is usually the correct one. So when you consider the extreme rarity of the diagnosis, blame cannot be put on the family nor the family physician. And to put the rarity of this case into perspective, there are only 30 known diagnoses of carnosinemia in all medical history worldwide. And because not many people have the mutation, let alone are homozygous recessive for the mutation, it makes it a difficult disease to study. While the locus of the carnosinase is known, it is still unknown what gene is mutated that causes carnosinemia. Carnosinemia is an autosomal recessive mutation, meaning that both parents have to be carriers in order for the offspring to be affected. A direct quote from rarediseases.org, quote, "The exact nature of the biochemical abnormality that causes carnosinemia is not clear," unquote. Due to the rarity of the disease, very little research has been conducted, and while the culprit enzyme's carnosinase genetic locus is known, it is still unknown which gene is mutated. There is still currently no cure or definitive treatment of carnosinemia. Only the symptoms can be managed. It is recommended that the affected individual maintain a vegetarian diet and refrain from all meat and meat products, because that is the primary source of carnosine, which is the product that the mutated enzyme cannot properly metabolize. Unfortunately, even with symptomatic management of a vegetarian diet, there are those that are still suffering from the disease. Quoted from raredisease.info.nih.gov, it is unclear whether refraining from meat will have any effect on the symptoms, unquote. As stated previously, there is no treatment for carnosinemia, only symptomatic treatment. So the probability of two carriers of this mutation finding each other and procreating is pretty low, considering how extremely rare the disease is. If two carriers of the disease produce offspring, the probability of them conceiving a child that is a carrier is 50%, while conceiving a child that will be affected is 25%. Also, the probability that their child that is not a carrier at all is 25%. And 25% is somewhat high in the world of medicine and genetics, and genetic counseling is recommended if it runs in the family. So both son and daughter inherited the disease, making it an autosomal recessive disease. Chapter 20 of our text goes through the meaning of sex-linked genes and touches on autosomal chromosomes. If carnosinemia were Y-linked, then the daughter would have never received it, though if it were X-linked, then the mutation would have been homozygous recessive in the mother and hemizygous in the father, which would mean that all the daughters would express the mutation while the sons would have just been carriers. The symptoms of the disease arise from the enzyme's failure to break down carnosine, though the source of the mutation and where the breakdown in the protein synthesis pathway is still unknown. A cause could be an error in DNA replication, as described in Chapter 12 of our text, or also in Chapter 12, the mutation could have been from a chemical source that a certain population was exposed to generations ago, and continued to be passed down. If you would like to find more information on carnosinemia, here are my sources. Thank you.